It's a great honor for me to have the last speech. Actually, when I read it in the program, I felt so nervous. But thank you, Andres, for inviting me here. And I feel so privileged to be here. Thanks to all the sponsors and all the people working to make this happen. There's so many extraordinary people here, and they have all these extraordinary talents. And many of the speakers, they are also captivating, and they are moving around, gesticulating. Now, I won't be able to do that, but please don't think I'm stiff. I was just born hands-free. I was my parents' first child, and they were so thrilled in becoming parents. My dad, he was a policeman and a farmer and a very down-to-earth kind of guy. And my mother, she was an occupational therapist. After 36 hours of labor, early in the morning, I came out, but something was wrong. As soon as I showed myself to the world for the very first time, a nurse wrapped me in a blanket, immediately disappearing from the room in her arms to another part of the hospital. My parents, they were in shock and left in a total void. After a while, the doctor came and informed my mom and dad that I was born with a severe handicap. Both my arms and hands were missing, and my left leg and foot deformed and just half as long as my right normal leg. But they didn't need to worry. There were institutions for children like me. They would never even have to see me. This was in 1968 in Sweden. Not until 3 days later did I get to meet my parents for the very first time. They were filled with sorrow, guilt, and a lot of questions. But when my mother saw me, she was so surprised. She thought my eyes were so lively, and I had the prettiest smiling little mouth she'd ever seen. At that moment, she instantly decided that she wanted to raise me and take care of me in the best possible way. Little did they know what an exciting life I was destined for. When my parents decided to raise me, the doctor recommended them to have another baby. So I have a brother, 15 months younger than me, and he doesn't have any handicap. Well, that's at least what they say. Being a smaller brother when I'm the big sister is a big handicap. And most of the handicaps we have are invisible. I was fortunate in many ways. I was born with the right parents in a progressive country and with something that more than anything else compensated for my lack of limbs, my personality. I hardly ever worry about anything. I spontaneously take things in a positive way. I love to meet new people, learn and try new things, and I don't mind people looking at me. As a matter of fact, I sometimes even like it. And I'm very stubborn. When I was a little girl, my mother wanted to take me and my brother to the beach. Obviously, she was well aware that people would stare at me. Finally, she gathered her courage, put out the beach towel on the sand, took my baby brother's clothes off and then mine. It was such a lovely day, and I was so happy because everybody looked at me. From the first day, my parents taught me that whatever I want to do, I can. And whoever I want to be, I can be. And wherever I want to go, I can go. And I listened, and I watched, and I learned. My parents wanted me to grow up like any other kid, and they raised me just like my brother. The society would not adapt to me, so I would have to adapt to the society. The only way to become an independent person would be to cope with any obstacle that would come my way. And believe me, they were many, even though I didn't feel it that way. I felt like I was just like my friends and schoolmates. When they used their hands, I used my feet. Other than that, we were just the same. Today, I even think it's sometimes easier not to have arms. For instance, when people eat with chopsticks, they complain how hard it is. They should use their foot instead. So much easier. As a child, I was always given a lot of time and much freedom to find my own ways to do things. My parents never told me where my limits were, but encouraged me to have fun and to enjoy what I was doing. And when it didn't work, they encouraged me to try again and again and again, and don't give up until I have finished. And for some reason, I never quite understood that there were things that I logically wouldn't be able to do, like swimming, for example. When I was 3 years old, my parents started taking my little brother and me to the local swimming pool. I loved the water. By the age of 5, I could float on my own, and at 6, I could swim the backstroke. But my favorite later became the butterfly. I guess that's because it's as close as we can get to how fishes swims. And they also swim very well without arms. I just use the whole body like a wave, and the heavy part, to get both arms up, I just don't need to do. As a teenager, I qualified to compete in the Swedish Games. I was totally thrilled, but not because I was going to be in that game. No, I thought it was so exciting to go to Stockholm, our capital, and see the big buildings and all the people. And it didn't quite strike me that it was the Swedish Games I was a part of, until I had 3 silver medals around my neck and was asked to join the Swedish swim team. This was a turning point in my life. I started to train 5 times a week instead of 1. I got a personal trainer, went to swimming camps, and had to skip all the yummy fast food. Later that same year, I was selected to represent Sweden in the World Championships. It turned into a fantastic experience, and I managed to break 2 world records and win 2 gold medals in butterfly and a bronze medal in backstroke. The next year, I went to Paris for the European Championships. This time, I brought 4 gold medals home with me. During the next year, in 1988, while preparing for the Paralympic Games in Seoul, South Korea, the Swedish television made their first documentary about me. It was aired when I was away at the competitions. When I came home, I'd become a household name without even knowing about it, and it all happened overnight. Suddenly, I received requests from all over the country to come and sing and talk about my life. The Paralympics became my last competition. It was time for me to move on to new challenges. My studies at the Royal Academy of Music in Stockholm were my way into the future. A couple of years later, the TV documentary won an international competition and was sold to a lot of different countries around the world, among them Japan, where it became a huge success. The first concert tour in the spring of '92 turned into a big success and sold out everywhere. Since then, I've released several books, a couple of them that I've written myself, around 45 CDs, live videos, DVDs, and I've had around 60 concert tours in Asia. I have performed at different kind of stages in the most famous Buddhist temple, the Zenkoji temple in Nagano, on the opening ceremony of the Paralympic Games in Nagano, and on top of it all, I have also become a manga cartoon hero with big blue eyes and a perfect figure. But let's talk about something more important, everyday life. One of the most important things in our lives is to be able to live independently, especially without the restrictions of our own bodies and personalities. I was blessed with an uncomplicated personality and a rather uncomplicated body. A body that has allowed me to learn just about everything can do with arms and hands, but without arms and hands. For example, when I send a text message on my cell phone, I write it with my toes. That's rather obvious. The same thing when I knit, or do cross-stitching, or write on the computer keyboard. I'm quite fast, actually. And when I climb out of the water and when I swim, I use my chin and my shoulder to hold on to the ladder. I also use this grip when I carry things, bags, books, dinner plate. And when I eat and drink, I use my feet and my teeth. Another thing I love to do is to write calligraphy. Thank you. But it's very unpractical to write with a foot when you go to a post office or a bank office to sign a paper. So I learned how to write with my mouth too. Thank you. But there are more complex things in life, like getting dressed, for instance, which was one of the hardest things for me to learn, but also one of the most important. When I was 13, I wanted to go to a summer camp, but I didn't want to bring an assistant, so I decided to do something about it. I went to a place where technical aids are displayed and tried them out one after another, but nothing worked very well. So after some consideration, I asked one of the technicians if he could make a stick with a hook at the end for me. When I tried it out, I instantly realized that this simple device would change my life. Now I could get dressed on my own and for the very first time become truly independent. Even though this is many years ago, the stick is still today what gives me my freedom. But sometimes it happens that I forget the stick. And one day when I was out shopping, I desperately needed to use the bathroom. I wouldn't make it in time to the car where I'd left the stick, so I grabbed a cloth hanger off the rack and headed for the bathroom. It worked, a bit more complicated, but still, it saved me. And sometimes I think that being hands-free has forced me to become more creative. Today I can do just about everything on my own, but there are limits. For instance, when I hang up my coat, or open a heavy door, or have to carry a big suitcase, I ask a friend. After all, I am a lady. I think that having... Thank you. I think that having to adapt to a society created for others and learning to do all these everyday things tore down a lot of barriers for me. It helped me to become determined and limitless. I just moved on from one thing to another, and today I feel that the only limit holding me back is time. I've done so many fun things in life. I've traveled on my own in India, become an honorary citizen in Taipei after a swimming race with the president. I've peeked at people looking at me when I peel shrimp with my feet in a restaurant. I have been awarded a medal by the Swedish king, and I've taken a motorcycle vacation around Europe with my ex-husband. Yes, I have been married. Why not? But there is one thing that I still haven't done, and that is to become a truck driver. I would love to drive a big 18-wheeler. I'd love to see the look of the other drivers' faces when I jump out at the truck stops. But so far, I had to settle for my SUV. I got my driving license when I was 18 years old, which is the minimum age in Sweden. It never seemed strange to me to drive with one's feet, but sometimes I've noticed that it appears a little more unusual to others. People often ask me how I can be so happy and full of energy. I believe that the biggest reason is love. I have received so much love from my family, from my friends, from God, and that has made me strong. That has helped me to love my life and who I am, and it has helped me to dare to try new things. Maybe someone is sitting here thinking, but hasn't anything been difficult? I've never been sad or felt sorry for myself because of my handicap. Not even in my teenage time, I thought of my handicap as something negative. I've never worried more than my regular friends did about things like, will I find a man or will I find a job? On the contrary, I felt fortunate to be different because it's given me so many benefits, and I've never had to fight on the same arena as everyone else. I've had my own first-class line. Maybe I haven't been able to do much. Nobody can do everything, but everybody can do something. In many parts of the world, a kid born with a handicap like mine would not be living in public if they were allowed to live at all. I believe that the future of the world rests in the hands of society's ability to let all kinds of people have a natural place and be visible, handicapped or not, rich or poor, bad or good looking. Every one of us are unique and important, and together we can create a world that is colorful and rich if we encourage everybody to develop their own personalities. I sense a change, and if I'm a part of that, nothing would make me happier. If I would have been born without my physical challenges, I would never have become who I am today, and I'm sure my life would not have been this exciting. Of all the things I do professionally, I especially love to sing. And here the music is supposed to come out. I believe that music, just like Luciano Pavarotti said, brings people together. It's a language that reaches beyond borders and barriers, changes our perspectives, and gives us courage and energy. My singing is something I want to use, changing the world to a somewhat better place. One day the music will come. Thank you. There's a long introduction of this song, so if you want, you can talk with each other, before I start singing. Coming? Okay. Thank you. more than I can be. You raise me up to more than I can be. Gracias.